Good evening, Canterbury. Welcome to this NewsMakers Extra. Well, the Arts Centre is widely considered by most Christchurch residents as the jewel in our crown, by visitors and locals alike, really, isn't it? And the university's desire to return to its old stomping ground has galvanised a sustained and rather divisive debate. In fact, the conservatorium proposal has become one of the defining civic issues of the year. Well, joining us to defend the proposal and also to discuss the wider challenges facing the Arts Centre is the director, Ken Franklin. Thank you very much for joining us, Ken.
Hi.
You've been in the job a year, but your work with the Arts Centre, of course, dates back several years. It would appear to me that property management is in your blood. Would I be right?
I've had quite a background in property administration, property investment, but of property development as well. So yes, it's definitely.
If my memory serves me correctly, prior to becoming director, you managed a range of development projects at the Arts Centre, including the seismic strengthening program. Is that the biggie when it comes to challenges facing the centre?
Certainly the biggest challenge financially that the site faces over the next probably 20-year period, really. We've taken a lot of the work has been done in protecting those original stone buildings already. There's been a lot of work to ensure that their foundations are reasonably sound, almost fully protected in respect of fire, with sprinklers right throughout. I think our last hookup is expected to happen over the next couple of months. And so the next major physical threat to those buildings will be seismic threat.
Sure. How much money is required to complete that program?
Well, at this stage, our estimates put it in the region of about $30 million. There's 23 Category 1 heritage buildings there, original stone buildings, so there's a huge amount of work to be done. We've done 2 of them so far, and reasonably successfully. I'm very delighted, I think, with the last one in terms of the standards that we achieved, the lack of intrusion on the actual building itself.
It was claimed recently that the planned music school would secure the financial income stream for that seismic strengthening work. Is that true or false?
No, I think that's an exaggeration. $30 million is a huge amount of money. And as you'd appreciate too, also expecting that program to roll out over 20 years plus, there needs to be a fair degree of contingency within that. The Conservatorium of Music is seen as a significant contributor to it. It's certainly not the entire answer by a long shot.
Oh, right. Of course, it wasn't that long ago that your predecessor, Tony Payne, unveiled a rather grand plan for the Arts Centre. I think we were going to have this massive underground car park, and I think there seemed to be this desire to gentrify the Arts Centre, have a few more higher value tenants and so forth. Has that plan been largely abandoned?
In terms of the car park, no. I think what we've, the way that we've addressed that really is to bring it down into smaller units rather than treat it as a large, massive undertaking all at once, and really separating it out into those smaller units enables it to happen in a more orderly fashion and also a more risk-averse fashion, which is we're very conscious that whatever we do, we need to make sure that we protect the existing capital assets that the Trust has developed and don't put those at risk through projects that aren't well-founded, really. So,
is there actually a long-term strategic plan for the Arts Centre?
Yes, very definitely there is. The most recent version of that, covering the next sort of immediate 5-year period, was signed off in 2008. But there is a much longer term vision as well that exists, and it's about ensuring the Trust Board has the ability to really fulfil its obligations under the Trust Deed in perpetuity, because we've got an asset there that's incredibly valuable, not simply to Canterbury, but on a national basis, really. It's got significance in that regard, and we need to make sure that we can protect that well into the future and retain those values.
How much public engagement was there in the formulation of the last plan in 2008?
The last strategic plan?
Yeah.
Direct, not a huge amount. There was certainly a lot of response and recognition was given to the feedback that was given to in response, I guess, to many of those plans that Tony announced. And I think there was a clear signal there that, in fact, you know, it's important to get the balance right, the balance in terms of taking forward a sound strategy that will actually build and enable the trust to fulfil its obligations, and recognising that the public at large and the community has a real stake in this asset. They love it dearly, they're incredibly passionate about it. That's a fantastic position to be in, but it does bring with it a sense of responsibility and a need to make sure that we progress through this in a relatively sensible and measured fashion.
I'll give you a chance after the break to respond to some of the key concerns that
Sure.
I'm sure the world knows about with respect to the conservatorium plan. But from the outset, why are you and the Trust Board so resolutely convinced that this is such a compelling initiative?
In very simple terms, it fulfills absolutely in respect of our requirements under the deed to support interest in the areas of art, culture and education, and the provision of a school of music, an educational facility that actually very directly engages in cultural and artistic development of cultural and artistic merit, I think is one of the key components that we see as an absolute fit with our overall intentions for the site. In addition to that, it provides on a very low risk basis a certainty of income and quite an extensive improvement in income over what we currently enjoy off that same area of vacant land.
Is the board 100% behind the proposal?
The board has adopted a position that says it fundamentally supports this proposal, and it has some conditions to that. It's identified firstly that it had some reservations about the design of the building. It sought wider expert information or consultancy in respect of that, so it sought out heritage reports. It's engaged directly in discussions with Historic Places Trust to get their view on it, and it has encouraged the university to ensure that the process is handled by way of a publicly notified resource consent.
Sure.
Because those design components are so important. And I guess it's also retained a position that says conditionally we won't finally sign off until we get the end result of the design that comes out of this resource consent process.
Is it true that a board member recently resigned because of concerns about the proposal and the board's decision-making process?
I'm not aware that there was a resignation. I'm not aware that that was in relation to the design of the building.
What do you think it was in relation to?
I'm not sure that's that appropriate for me to talk about that. That is board matters, and I think it's really over to the board to discuss what disclosure occurs around that, and it's probably not appropriate for me to respond to
the
that.
information I received is because it was absolutely because of this proposal.
Well, as I said to you, my understanding is that is not correct, but then equally, I don't think it's appropriate for me to talk about that.
Is there still a tenants representative on the board?
Yes, there is.
And they are in support of this proposal?
I don't want to talk about individual trustees, but I can say that the board, as a board, has determined very definite support for this.
All right. We'll have a look at some of the key concerns about this proposal with Ken Franklin after the break. Do stay with us.